trillions of dollars is pouring into the AI build-out, but the AI boom has one big problem. MarketBeat's Jeffrey Neal Johnson is here to share 6 energy stocks that could help solve the biggest problem that is holding AI back. Jeffrey, this is a story we've talked about before. It's not new. We all know that energy is really the biggest bottleneck for AI, but we're really starting to find out as more headlines come up about energy, especially where data centers are going up in the US. This isn't just a small problem. This is a really big potential hurdle for the growth and the boom of AI.
Yeah, that's correct. We're hitting a physical wall. We've talked, you and I have talked about the power grid in the United States really is not up to where it needs to be. It's, probably 5 to 6 years worth of solid long-term repairs before we even get close to where we need to be. What's happening is as the grid maxes out, you start having situations where the grid becomes unstable. They have to start turning off power to residential areas. The biggest bottleneck that we're coming up on isn't going to be chips, it's going to be electrons. We need more power from the grid or from somewhere to power these data centers because the simple fact of the matter is, without power, there is no AI.
It's such a great point. And we talk all about semiconductor and chip stocks and the big NVIDIAs that are growing like crazy. But again, there's this essential infrastructure piece that is really just as, or if not more important, because those chips don't work without it. And that's why the 6 names that you have for us today are so interesting and compelling. Some of these stories are actually on a downtrend right now. At the same time, the AI demand is continuing to grow and the investment into AI infrastructure build out is continuing to grow. So these 6 names make a lot of sense no matter where they are in their price action right now. The long-term story and the long-term argument for why they could be successful is absolutely there. Let's get started with the first name on your list. And we're starting with the most speculative and kind of working our way down towards the greatest buying opportunities in this energy boom story. What's the first name on the list, Jeffrey?
All right, so the first name on the list is going to be Generac. They are GNRC. Anybody that's been to Home Depot or Lowe's has seen a Generac generator. You hook it up to gas, hook it up to your home. When the power goes out, now you've got electricity. Just recently, as in the last few days, they released their earnings and it was a complete miss. But the stock actually went up somewhere between 18 and 20% because in all of the noise from the earnings numbers of the past, they mentioned that they are going to be starting a whole new thing where they're producing generators specifically for the AI infrastructure build out. Their 2026 guidance was that they're going to have 30% growth. So in 2026, they're expecting a 30% growth in that sector, which is the commercial and industrial sector. And that's specifically from the AI side of things. But for now, it's a really nice mixed play because before Generac moved around with hurricanes. So you bought Generac before hurricane season, and that was a lottery ticket. If you had a bad hurricane season, Generac had a good year. If you had a good hurricane season, Generac had a bad year. But now it's tied to AI, and it's no longer as speculative as it becomes increasingly tied to the infrastructure build out.
Interesting thesis for this one, and also a good move by the company to pivot towards trying to support the AI data center energy needs. But let's talk about the concerns with this one. Again, we're starting with the most risky, and this does feel risky if they don't have the numbers and the earnings to back up that future growth. It's also interesting to see that a bad earnings report was followed by a boost in the stock price just because of the excitement of the announcement that they're pivoting towards trying to support AI growth. Is that risky to you? Is that make this one an even riskier play simply because there's no proof in the pudding? They haven't actually rolled this out yet.
Yes, I do think that that is the speculative nature of it, but I feel like, they are starting to build a backlog and they're guiding 30% growth, over the next year in this particular segment. When you put one of these plays in for maybe the first 4 or 5 years until you know that it's solid, you're still going to want to gas backup. And these Generac generators are being specifically designed to gas back up these AI power centers.
When would you expect to see that potential payoff for this stock? Is it within this next year, or is it longer than that?
Well, I think that their run will be longer, but I think that if you could find entry points throughout, say, maybe the first and second quarter of this year, you might see some price movement there if they stay on track with what they're expected to do. If they come out let's say in October or November and say, yeah, we're on track, or even guide higher. You come out with a situation where a speculative play becomes, a really great option. And in the meantime, you still have their legacy business, right? So they're not going anywhere. This is just an extra on top of something that's already doing fairly great. I think with Generac that this new AI pivot, if they can keep it going and they can make it happen, is really going to solidify this stock, and it's going to take away the volatility that comes in the off season.
Yeah, interesting theory for this one. And speaking of legacy company, this next stock, the number two stock on your list today, is definitely not risky as a company itself, but maybe just more new to the AI story with energy. Let's get to the second stock on your list.
Yeah, so the next company on our list is FTAI Aviation, and the ticker symbol is FTAI. So this is a top end company. They're going to be joining the MSCI. So there's going to be force buying for ETFs and institutions that's going to be executed before February 27th. So that puts upward pressure on the stock. The stock's up 11% this month, and I think 77% on the 3 month. Here's the crazy thing. This company makes their money taking jet engines from 737 users. So you're thinking like United Airlines and stuff like that. They retrofit these jet engines so that they can swap them out from one airline to the next, just pull the jet off, stick a new jet engine on, send it down the road, saving the airline industry tons of money in downtime where these jets aren't being worked on in the field. They're like the Home Depot of the jet engine world when it comes to that. But interestingly enough, just like with Generac, they said AI infrastructure recently in their earnings report. These guys are going to take the jet engines that should be going on 737s and they're going to retrofit them to generate power. And that tells you how desperate this infrastructure play is to actually succeed. I mean, they're going in all kinds of crazy directions.
How long before this could potentially be working and be something that's marketable for this company?
They're building these little power plants out of jet engines now, right? And then on top of it, they've got a partnership with CFM International to work this whole thing out. So I don't think that it would be too much longer. I don't think that they've guided, and I could be completely wrong, but I have seen no guidance on when they expect these things to start rolling out into data centers. I would say probably by the end of 2026. It doesn't really take a lot of ingenuity to connect an engine to an alternator, basically.
This is so interesting to see the number of companies that are working to pivot towards supplying this need for energy in the AI data center build out. And that's why we're seeing stocks like these, any kind of alternative energy stock out there, doing so well right now, getting some interest from investors because we see so many different companies trying to solve this problem. And there's room in the demand for a lot of them potentially to succeed. We have a list if you want to check out more of those alternative energy options. It's a new report out on MarketBeat.com. It's the 5 energy stocks that are riding the AI power crunch. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description or in the comments. We've got that report for free just for our YouTube viewers today if you want to check out those 5 specifically alternative energy stocks. And Jeffrey, I know you have at least one of those alternative energy names up next on our list. And this one has been a really interesting story this year. Huge growth story, too.
Okay, so the next one that's going to be on our list is Bloom Energy, and their ticker symbol is BE. In the world of AI and in computing in general, speed is the only thing that matters, right? And that is the speed of your chips and everything else, but also the speed that you can get power, right? Currently, if you want to connect to the grid, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years. These data centers use 50, 100, 200 megawatts of electricity. My town probably doesn't use 50 megawatts of electricity. So to run the type of line that is going to draw enough power from the grid to run an entire town and basically connect it to a warehouse. That takes a long time. Bloom Energy has it down to 55 days. In 55 days, they can bring you a hybrid power system and put it outside of your unit, plug you up, and have you going. And these units are really awesome because these Bloom boxes can connect directly to that power source right now, and they can run off of natural gas. But when other alternatives, like for instance, clean hydrogen from plug power becomes available, you can ship that to the site. And now that same generator is generating power from hydrogen. There's no massive switch out. It's literally just we're going to switch fuels.
This company is so interesting. And again, that speed that you talked about is one of the reasons we're seeing the results that this company is getting. The earnings are crazy, and that price action is wild, up more than 600% in the last year, which is a crazy growth story. Let's talk about, is it too far ahead? Is this one just too hot to get into right now? Is this more of a name to add to your watch list to wait and see if it does pull back after its parabolic climb that it's had in the last year? What are your thoughts on where it's at right now?
If you look, right, the stock has been up like 500% for the year, but over, say, the past 3 months, it's only been up 11. They came out with earnings, and the earnings was a solid beat. It was 45 cents when the analyst said 20 cents. But when you have a stock that's gone up 5, 600% in a year's period of time, you get to this point where analysts kind of have to digest and wait and see what's going to happen next. Is the stock really worth 141 or 143? But in the particular case of Bloom, I think that this is a ledge that you would find an entry point. So you find those bad days where the energy market's not doing great. You pick up a little here, you pick up a little there, you stick your lunch money in it. And, in a couple of years, you're gonna be in a good place.
A very interesting growth story still ahead for Bloom, it sounds like, especially if the demand for AI continues the way that it has. The first three companies we've talked about are all unique, different, creative ways to solve the energy problem for the AI build out. And this next story is no different. It's a unique way of looking at solving the energy crisis for AI. And this company has seen the results coming through already in their earnings. Let's get to the fourth name on your list.
Yeah, so this one is gonna be GE Vernova, and it's, GEV. They're up 120% on the year. They're up 42% on the last 3 months, so they're doing great. But it's also justified because when it comes to GE Vernova, they are the gas turbine providers. So when we talk about previously, we talked about Bloom, and them being able to run, regular gas and hydrogen. Well, that's gotta run through a turbine, and that turbine has to come somewhere, right? The turbines come from GE Vernova, but then they also just recently bought, a division called Prolec GE for $5.3 billion, and they're the largest provider of transformers. They are seeing like a 77% increase in their gas turbine orders with a backlog of like 83 gigawatts. I mean, that's an insane amount of power. So their revenue visibility is there for quite a while right now. And with this new Prolec line with the transformers, you can see as we start repairing and building out the infrastructure of the grid, the orders that are going to come into Prolec for new transformers should be incredible.
Yeah, we've seen that already with the orders coming in for this company. Let's look at some of those numbers really quick and how that's contributing to the growth of this stock. That, again, a stock that's been around for a while, already doing well in the many different areas it's at. But specifically, how has the AI demand impacted earnings and growth projections for this company?
So they have a $150 billion backlog at this point. Their orders are up 77% year over year. And they're expecting, and that, that backlog, that $150 billion is 83 gigawatts of power. You look at that and you say, wow, they must be making money hand over fist. And of course they are. That's why they just doubled the dividend.
Yeah, very interesting. And I love this list today, Jeffrey, because we've got six names and six very different stories. This is definitely the more stable, solid play, a dividend player. So if you're that kind of investor who's wanting to invest in the energy, this is the stock for you. The next name on our list, actually, these last two are more interesting buys right now that are maybe down a little bit and still have a growth story ahead, but are far more risky too. So let's get to the fifth company on the list. And I know, Jeffrey, this is one of your personal favorites.
I talk about this company all the time. They are, of course, again, the only player out there that has a Nuclear Regulatory Commission approved design, and that's NuScale, that's SMR. They've already sold a whole bunch of I think 8 or 12, however many of these, to TVA. Now they've gone to ORNL. And if you know anything about nuclear power, Oak Ridge National Laboratory is where the bombs were made. It's where most of the United States' nuclear fuel comes from. And Oak Ridge National Laboratories just agreed to buy 12 of these units, right? And specifically, they're buying 12 of them to help power this region. the Chattanooga, Knoxville, Nashville area. But secondarily, they are buying these 12 units to research and investigate how you can daisy chain them together to further increase the amount of efficiency that they have. So you're talking about the ability to bring this box and stack them and connect them and share fuel between them. And Oak Ridge National Laboratory is taking a bet on that being something that can be done. And they're doing this for the grid. They're not doing this for AI. The United States government has some play in this, and so does the government of Romania. Their initial SMR launch will be for the government of Romania.
Let's look at that a little bit closer because the chart action on this has been really negative. I know we've been talking about this for the last year. I know you pitched it as one of your favorite stocks for 2026, and it hasn't done much since then. Are analysts still bullish on this? And what kind of price action are we seeing? Is it still at a buy?
Analysts have been kind of down on this stock and have created almost like a death spiral for it. By pushing this stock down like that, they're creating so much negative sentiment that it's almost ridiculous. This stock has a zero debt balance sheet. They have a $753 million fortress in the bank.
Yeah, it's a theory that you've been sharing for a while. I'd love to hear from our viewers. Have you gotten into SMR and been burned and just waiting for the stock to do something? Let me hear your thoughts on this one. Let's get on to the last name on the list. I do also have SMR already on my Bridget Spies watch list. It's one of the names I added earlier on in December. And again, it's not doing much of anything for my watch list either. And I think there's some investors out there who might be in the same boat with this stock. But for this video, I'm actually going to add the last stock you were talking about today because I think your thesis on this is strong. And I also like that it's at a good spot, a good pullback to buy right now. So let's get to the last name on your list.
Okay, so the last name on my list is Iran. It's IREN. When I first started writing for MarketBeat 3, 4 years ago, cryptocurrency was the craze, right? And all of these crypto mining companies were going crazy trying to do exactly what AI is doing right now, getting connections of megawatts and megawatts directly to the grid. That was 3 or 4 years ago. They have the floor space, they have the plugs, and basically all they need is somebody like Microsoft to come in and write a $3.6 billion check so that they can put their racks on the floor and plug it in.
Yeah, interesting to include this one as a part of the power story because this has really been more of that data center infrastructure story where they're becoming the landlord in the AI data center space, renting out their space. But that does play a role in the power, like you just said. It also means providing that power that's already readily available. But this stock has had probably the most volatile story of all of the stocks on the list in just the last few weeks. So many ups and downs for this one, and it's down quite a bit right now. Let's talk about what's behind some of the volatility for IREN.
I think the volatility was their earnings report came out and it was a bit of a miss because they're in the middle of a pivot. Also, at the same time, they're building out their 1.6 gigawatt campus in Oklahoma, which will allow them to diversify away from the Texas power grid, giving them power from the Southwest Power Pool versus the ERCOT Power Pool. That diversification and that build out takes money, right? So when you have that earnings miss and you have that pivot, which doesn't give you these insane, crazy guidances. And then you have the fact that Bitcoin is basically just tanking and has been tanking now for, the past 30 days or so. Because this player is very tied to the price of Bitcoin, right? As Bitcoin goes down, it will suffer. It's down 20% on the month. It's down 28% on the 3 month. But they have so many catalysts coming up, one right after the next. $3.6 billion coming in from JP Morgan, who's looked at their strategy and has looked at their business and said that they're bankable. And if JP Morgan says you're bankable, then I would assume that you're probably bankable. Then on top of that, you have over $9 billion worth of commitments coming in from Microsoft, where they're saying, "Let us come in and let us plug in." So you have those two items creating the demand, and they're going to quell that demand with this new 1.6 gigawatt build out in the campus in Oklahoma. It looks like the stock is being overly punished for its connection to Bitcoin. And the thesis for this is as more and more analysts and more models start to price this stock as an AI infrastructure stock and stop pricing this stock as a Bitcoin mining stock, you might see the valuation gap close very quickly.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to look at what analysts say about this stock because they are pricing it higher already. It's currently priced well below where that consensus price target is. So even analysts do expect some upside ahead for IREN right now. It's a concept that has worked for this stock. And if you believe in the concept that Jeffrey just described about these Bitcoin miners being positioned to provide the energy ahead of some of the other players out there, make sure to watch this video. It's a list of 10 different Bitcoin miners that are all poised to profit if they make that pivot to AI successfully. Check out the video. It has a list of 10 different stocks that have a lot of upside potential.